Hello, it's me, Uncle Bucket. I come to you in my truest visage, one I reached after eating an entire family-sized bag of expired peanut butter M&Ms. Are you a fan of Harry Potter, but wish there were more dogs, more Disney child star acting, and less J.K. Rowling? Well, gee whiz, do I have a show for you. PUP Academy is a Disney Channel show that premiered in the US and Canada in 2019. There are currently 2 seasons, and as of writing this script, there's no word on if we get another season since it's moved to Netflix. The show takes us on a journey from a homeless puppy stealing food to live to a star-powered, luxurious private school hidden from humans, where dogs learn to be a human's best friend, but also learn what it means to be a chosen family. And I'll get into the Harry Potter parallels soon, I promise. Let me finish setting things up first. Don't rush me. As many of you know, because I've mentioned it in previous videos, I'm a dog trainer. As you also might know, this is not the content I normally cover. Far from it. But I've been kind of in a creative rut for a bit, so I'm trying something new. I want to say this now. I love this show. It's adorable, it's wholesome, it's heartwarming. It can be pretty cringe, but that's what happens when you're a 29-year-old man turned dog that watches children's shows. Sometimes things aren't meant for me. Any criticism I give is in the best of intentions, and with the full understanding that I am a dummy on the internet with no massive movie and TV empire, nor any experience actually filming said movies and TV shows. Technically, all 19 episodes were released from Disney as just the first season, but after episode 12, Netflix cut it off and tucked the rest of the episodes into another season. But that means we're also only going over the first 12 episodes. That all being said, let's dive into the first season. The series opens on a cloaked staff meeting in the middle of the night, orchestrated by secret theater kid DOG. DOG is the Dean of Graduation at PUP Academy, and starts the meeting off ominously. He informs the rest of the staff, and the audience, that the constellation that powers the school, Canis Primus, is fading, meaning the bond between dogs and humans is weakening. Because there are a few changes happening outside of his control, DOG decides to make a few himself. He informs the staff that there will be a stray admitted into the academy, the aforementioned homeless puppy from the first paragraph. Professor Fitz objects, pushing his blood purist ideology, insisting that the academy was built on pedigree, quote-unquote, and should stay that way, which is an interesting take when the actress playing Professor Fitz is a pointer mix. As in the Harry Potter series, PUP Academy also has a trio of precocious young heroes. Spark, a boxer that doesn't seem interested in the academy or finding a human, but does perk up when food is promised. We first see her running out of a butcher's shop, a string of sausages in her mouth. She runs into an alley with a busted mini-fridge and settles into the hollowed-out insides of the fridge to enjoy her food. Wiz, a black and white sheepdog who, while timid, makes up for it with wisdom. His first scene is on a farm, with his young human trying to encourage him into herding sheep. It doesn't go well, and Wiz ends up being chased away by the sheep. Corazon is a golden retriever with a heart of gold, who has trouble focusing, but has no trouble having fun. This is our TikTok famous creator, essentially. Corazon's human is an online content creator, and he is the star of her shows. DOG magically appears to each of them separately, saying basically the same thing to each of them. He tells them about the school, gives them a special dog tag that is their only way in and out of the school, and tells them to pass through a fire hydrant when the whistle blows and their tags glow. Once at the school, we get a tour of the grounds, and we get to meet the 2 bullies, Bite and Roddy, the cheerleader, Pom Pom, and our Snape analog, Professor Fitz. During one of the first classes of the day, Spark, not knowing indoor manners, breaks a piece of equipment and gives Professor Fitz another reason to dislike her. Not just because she's a stray, which is the main reason he dislikes her. Later in the day, Professor Fitz convinces DOG and Coach K9 to wager that if our main trio do well in their gym class that they can stay, but if they do poorly, they'd have to be expelled. DOG agrees, and that feels unethical. Coach K9 has the puppies play fetchball. In fetchball, all you have to do is match the item that is shot from the toy launcher to the logical goal. Bones get buried in the hole, balls go in the hoop, shoes go in the cubby, and the squeaky toy goes in the toy box. Whichever team gets an item in each goal first wins. A cute game that you can play with your dog, actually. Though I changed the shoe to something else so you don't trick your pup into thinking shoes are a-okay to play with. Bite does, as his name implies, and nips Spark's leg. At first, it seems like the game is over, but Wiz thinks of a plan while Bite gets put into the penalty box and they end up winning, so they get to stay at Pup Academy. Yay! Each year, Professor Fitz holds a Tell Us About Your Human Day, and this year he's extra eager for it, because as we know, but none of the student puppies know, Spark doesn't have a human. So when Professor Fitz maliciously calls her to the front of the class, she lies. She thinks of the only human that she's had the most experience with, and describes him as positively as she can. She thinks of Clark, one half of a pair of animal control officers that have been scouring the city for Spark, trying to put her in the shelter. Corazon, bless his little heart, thinks Spark is talking about a superhero. So he and Wiz try to get invited over to Spark's, and when she hems and haws, Corazon decides just to show up with Wiz in tow. They go through Spark's hydrant and spend some time trying to find her. Unfortunately, Clark finds them moments after they find Spark. Wiz and Corazon think Clark is her human, so they rush to greet him and are shoved into kennels in the back of the animal control van. Spark runs off, terrified. Desperate for help, she goes to the lost dogs. King, their leader, says he'll rescue her friends as long as she promises to do him a favor at the time and place of his choosing. A paw pact. King follows through, and through some TV magic, gets the puppies out. Wiz and Corazon promise to keep Spark's no-human status a secret, and Corazon gives them their own group name. Now you might be thinking, a school run entirely by dogs? How does that work? And I'll tell you, it doesn't. They have a human on campus, and it's a generational position. Any job that needs thumbs to do, the human does. I actually buried the lead. Astute viewers will have noticed the cloaked human in the beginning. That's Grandpa Charlie, and this is Morgan. He is the grandson of Grandpa Charlie, and the apprentice human on campus. Morgan and his mother just moved to town, turns out, to introduce him to Pup Academy and his new life. Morgan's father was the previous apprentice human on campus, but he passed before his time, so now Morgan is stepping up early. He talks about the position as a way to get closer to his father, which I think is really lovely. I also really like the relationship Morgan and Charlie have. Like, at one point in the season, they have a prank war that Charlie used to have every year with his son, Morgan's father. I thought this was a very sweet way to keep the tradition alive, and for Morgan to learn more about his father, and for Morgan and Charlie to bond further. And I probably could have gone the whole series without mentioning the humans in the story, but there are few human-centric episodes, so unless I want to skip those entirely, and I thought about doing so, I had to fit them in somewhere. From the start of his apprenticeship, Morgan struggled to balance it with his own academic responsibilities. Episode 4, Cooking Up Trouble, is all about Morgan learning how to do that. It also serves as an avenue for Izzy, Corazon's human and Morgan's classmate, to start asking questions and snooping around. Izzy gets a hold of Morgan's magical dog tag and ends up at Pup Academy, and eventually, after lots of begging to go back to Pup Academy, she gets to substitute in for Morgan when he gets sick with a cold. Towards the end of the season, Izzy and Morgan get another episode to bond when Morgan takes pictures of Pup Academy for Izzy to see, since she hasn't been allowed back to Pup Academy yet. Tragedy strikes when Morgan accidentally sends them to the school conspiracy theorist, and the two spend the rest of the episode trying to delete the photos and convincing the student body that they were edited. And it's pretty easy to do. Not many rational people are going to believe in a magical private school for dogs. And that is the last human plot for a few episodes. Let's quickly talk about the Potter connection. Unless you're familiar with Harry Potter lore, you probably would not even notice the connection. It's kind of vague. The puppies are separated into 4 houses: the Howlers, the Growlers, the Sniffers, and the something. The Barkers. They're the Barkers. Duh. Headmistress Gruff is McGonagall, Professor Fitz is Snape, and Wolf seems to be Voldemort. There's the Wildwood, which is a forbidden forest, and aside from that, the most Harry Potter part of the show is the Twitter page. I think before Disney lawyers got their hand on the show, it was more blatantly Harry Potter-esque, but they didn't want to deal with J.K. Rowling, and who can blame them? So they toned it down. I have to wonder if Morgan and his family were added into their IP to make it more distinctly different from Harry Potter, because it does seem a little shoehorned in there. Anyway, back to the puppies. Corazon, the dingus, is in puppy love with Pom Pom, who doesn't even know his name at this point. He tries to talk to her at her locker and ends up lying, saying that his uncle is Dude, a world-famous actor that starred in the Disney's Descendants movies. Dude just happens to be Pom Pom's favorite actor, and Corazon promises to get Dude to come visit Pup Academy at lunch. Spark and Wiz tell him that he's an idiot, but Spark is able to find a Dude look-alike in the Lost Dogs pack. They hire him for the day to play Dude, but of course things go awry when Rico, the look-alike, discovers the power of celebrity. Right off the bat, he makes Pom Pom cry and creates a gang of puppy soldiers. To make hijinks even wackier, the Academy is having a talent show with a special guest judge. It's Dude. The real Dude. And Rico attempts to straight up murder Dude, but ends up just locking him in the green room because this is still a Disney show. Thankfully, no puppies were harmed in the making of this episode, and everything was figured out before the end of the school day. Have you ever wondered what a puppy's rebellious grunge phase looks like? Look no further than Spark's mild ethical dilemma of, do I help the lost dog steal some 100 some odd hot dogs, or do I save Morgan from becoming a hot dog himself? Spark chooses to save Morgan. Big cheers. I unironically was thrilled. It was a big moment for her. As previously mentioned, there's a prophecy that says the connection between humans and canines is weakening, and that the only way to bring it back has something to do with the bond between quote-unquote the boy and the stray. This is the reason that Spark was allowed into Pup Academy, because she's a stray. But she can't do it alone. She has to have a human. So DOG, Charlie, and Coach Canine conspire to come up with excuses to have Morgan and Spark spend time together. Morgan and Spark are paired up for a class assignment and end up hopelessly lost in the enormous and intimidating wildwood forest that surrounds the academy. A family trait that the Edwards have is that they can speak with dogs, except Morgan hasn't figured it out yet. Fortunately, he got lots of practice with Spark in the Wildwoods, and by the end, even though he wasn't fluent, he was understanding more and more, and she was also understanding him. While lost in the Wildwood, the pair hear howling wolves and see large guard dogs roaming. We found out that the alpha wolf in the Wildwood is named Wolf, and he's trying to get DOG fired. Again, Disney show fired, not murdered. It's unclear why until the season finale, where we find out Wolf and DOG are brothers and that they're both related to the great first dog. Even though Wolf is a wolf and DOG is a Siberian Husky, but I'm letting that go. It's a children's show about magical school for dogs. There are limits to my nitpicking. Anyway, since Wolf wanted to get DOG fired, again, fired, not murdered, he enlisted Professor Fitz to help. Fitz then enlisted the Dean of Kitten Academy to have one of her students steal the truce between cats and dogs. That failed. So Wolf decides to call on his protege, King. And this also brings us up to the season finale. King, formerly known as Kingsley, attended Pup Academy and was a stray. DOG thought King was the stray of the prophecy and helped him bond with a human. But King's human died, and that led to King starting to lash out, which makes sense. He was a 7-year-old child, if that, orphaned, lived on the streets, and then the one person that loved him left. So of course this kid is going to have outbursts, he's going to act inappropriately, he's going to be a shithead, because he's a heartbroken kid. King's backstory makes me cry, because after King started acting out, he was expelled from Pup Academy, and Charlie, instead of holding little Kingsley dear, the pup that belonged to his now dead son, he kicks him out. Sends him back to live on the streets. And when I tell you, I cannot express how upset that made me, please believe me. It filled me with rage, and for a moment, I was on King's side. I'm not shocked to find out that King grew up to join a villain whose goal is to destroy Pup Academy and DOG. A chance to get back at the place that turned its back on him, the dogs and humans that did the same? I'd want to tear it apart too, which is what King and the Lost Dogs do. They trick Spark into giving up her magical dog tag and sneak onto campus. Before the Lost Dogs skedaddle, King steals back his Pup Academy dog tag. When the staff discover what happened, Spark gets expelled, and the Canis Primus constellation starts to fade. meaning the bond between humans and dogs is almost gone. And when that happens, the world as we know it will end. Bum, bum, bum. I mean, that's one hell of a cliffhanger. That's crazy. In conclusion, I love this show. It's adorable. It made me cry. It made me laugh. It made me cringe. I really went through the full scope of human emotions over the course of the season. And isn't that what you really want from a TV show? Something that makes you think and feel, and most importantly of all, it has puppies for its primary cast? So that's it. If you got to this point of the video, thank you for sticking around. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and feel free to click subscribe while you're down there. Our goal is to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and once we get to 500 subscribers, I'll be hosting a Steam Game giveaway live stream. If you're interested to know more about the giveaway, join our Discord community. The invitation link is in the description.